Hey everyone, it's me, Matt. Welcome back to my Florida garden. I hope you're all doing great, and I hope you're ready to hang out with me today because in today's video, I'm going to give you an update on all the zinnias and cosmos plants we started from seed together back at the end of May. Some of them are looking good, while others are looking really rough, but I figured we'd get some of them planted in the ground today. So let's get into it. All right, so to start off, here's all my zinnias and cosmos plants. As you can see, some are definitely looking rough, especially the zinnias. I was hopeful that I'd be able to salvage them, but I think the zinnias are a lost cause. So if you remember, my goal was to grow as many of my summer annuals from seed as possible, and back in May I started 110 containers with 3 different varieties of zinnias and 2 different varieties of cosmos flowers. I had almost 100% germination, which I was really excited about, but you might also remember I was a little late in thinning all of my seedlings, so they got a bit leggy. A few days after thinning them, I also tried mounding some soil up around their bases to give them some added support and stability, but in the end, it didn't really work. During the last week of June, I was away on vacation in Spain, and while I was gone, we had torrential rain here in Florida, and all my plants completely flopped over. They all looked terrible when I got home. I did my best to salvage them by staking them with some inexpensive stakes that I picked up at the dollar store. I was able to save most of the cosmos plants, but I think I need to scrap the zinnias and start over since all my zinnia plants look so bad. Coming in a little closer, you can see I even tried to pinch the zinnias to try to get them to branch laterally, and it kind of worked. You can see some of the new growth on some of these plants. But unfortunately, I think these plants are just too far gone. They look like they're also dealing with a fungal issue. You can see their leaves look really bad too. So instead of continuing to pour my energy into saving these plants, I'm just going to direct sow some zinnia seeds throughout my front landscape. So that'll be today's project. We'll get all my cosmos plants planted in the ground, and then we'll direct sow some new zinnias. So really quick, before we start planting, I just wanted to quickly review the 2 cosmos varieties that I've got. Starting off with these 2 trays here, these are a multicolored seashells blend. These plants are supposed to have delicate, rolled-petaled flowers, and they're supposed to get massive, topping out at about 4 feet tall. And of the 2 cosmos varieties that I started, these plants definitely look the best. And then looking at my second cosmos variety, I've got 1 tray of these gazebo blend cosmos. These plants will also have delicate multicolored flowers, except their petals will be flat. And these cosmos won't get quite as big, but they should top out at about 2.5 feet tall. I'll also add that this variety struggled more than the seashells blend. You can see my second tray of gazebo blend cosmos didn't make it. 3 of these containers didn't even germinate, and the rest just failed to thrive and eventually died. And then really quick, I also wanted to review the 2 zinnia varieties that we'll be direct sowing today. These seeds were actually left over from when I started my zinnia plants back in May. I've only got 2 of the 3 varieties that I originally started. First up, I've got these taller, multicolored cut and come again zinnias. These plants should top out at about 2 feet tall, and they're supposed to have these beautiful double 2.5-inch flowers. And then I've got this Lilliput variety here that's more medium height. They should top out at about 16 to 18 inches tall, and you can see they're also supposed to have big, beautiful, multicolored blooms too. So moving on to planting now, you can see we're back in my front yard where I plan to tuck in all my cosmos plants and direct sow my zinnia seeds. Also, don't look too closely at my garden beds. Some of my plants, especially the verbenas, are really struggling right now. I've missed the last 2 weeks of fertilizing, and then the July heat and humidity has also been brutal. So as far as placement, I'm going to plant all of the seashells blend cosmos flowers around the back of my Adirondack chairs. I've currently got some dahlias planted in this area, and they're all starting to fizzle out, and I thought the seashells cosmos plants would be a good replacement with their height and beautiful blooms. And then coming over closer to my driveway, I thought I'd tuck all the gazebo blend cosmos plants into this flower bed. I also think their added height and color will look really good in this space, especially when planted next to all the taller white Gara plants I've already got planted in this bed. So moving on to the zinnia placement, I'm going to sow the seeds in the 4 areas where I had my Supertunia Bordeaux plants earlier this year. I'm going to sow some here to fill in this space on the far left side of my front garden bed. I'll also add some in this space between my Adirondack chairs. You can see these white verbena plants are really struggling with the heat. I'm hoping the zinnias will fill in this area and add some afternoon shade for these verbena plants. I'm also going to sow some here in front of my giant bird of paradise plant. And then lastly, I'll sow some in this space on the far right side of my front garden bed to really round out my entire front landscape. All right, so I went ahead and moved all my cosmos plants up here to my front walkway off camera. And then I also grabbed my hand shovel and some slow release fertilizer. So let's get all the cosmos plants planted in the ground first, and then we can move on to seed sowing. So there we go. All my cosmos plants are planted and watered in. I'm really hopeful that these plants really fill in now that they're in the ground. It's supposed to be really hot the next few days, so that should really help these plants take off since they love the Florida heat. And then moving forward, I'll make sure that they're fertilized weekly with some water-soluble plant food to make sure they've got all the nutrients they need to perform throughout the summer season. So moving on to direct sowing my zinnia seeds now, I've got my seed packets here, some pre-moistened garden soil, and some pre-moistened seed starting mix. So my plan is to start them just like I started the ones in containers back in May. I'll put down a base layer of garden soil, then I'll sprinkle my zinnia seeds on top, and then I'll lightly cover them with the seed starting mix. So these seeds only need to be covered with about 1/4 of an inch of soil, and they should germinate really quick in the hot summer weather. So let's get to it. All done! The zinnia seeds have all been sown. So I sowed the taller variety toward the back of each of the areas, and then the more medium height variety toward the front. I'm hoping my second attempt is successful. Fingers crossed this direct sowing method works, because I'd really appreciate a garden win to make up for the epic failure that was my first attempt. So please send some positive vibes my way. So moving forward over the next few days, my plan is to keep the soil moist until these seeds germinate. Like I said earlier, they should germinate really quick. My first round of seedlings actually germinated in about 48 hours. And then once my seedlings are about 2 inches tall, I'll thin them so that they're about 10 inches apart. And then after they've developed their third or fourth set of true adult leaves, I'll pinch them to encourage lateral branching. And then really quick, I wanted to add that all of these plants need lots of sun in order to perform their best. And while some of these garden beds look like shade beds now, they'll quickly turn into full sun beds by about 11 a.m. So don't worry, these plants will definitely get lots of hot afternoon sun. So overall, I'm really excited I got all my cosmos plants in the ground today, and I'm hopeful that my second zinnia attempt will be successful. Hopefully you've learned something useful from not only this video, but the other 2 videos I made to document the entire process of growing my summer annuals from seed. At the very least, hopefully you've learned from my mistakes. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons so you can follow all the progress of my zinnias and cosmos flowers in future videos. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.